Here's something that'll blow your mind. Scientists have already described over 1 million different animal species. That's right, more than 1 million. With numbers like that, you can see why we need a solid classification system. It's not just about organizing what we know. Classification helps us figure out exactly where new species fit when we discover them. Think of it as a massive filing system for life itself. Now, even though animals look incredibly different on the outside, they share fundamental features that we use for classification. We're talking about how their cells are arranged, their body symmetry, whether they have a coelom or body cavity, and their organ system patterns. These common features give us a reliable way to group animals scientifically. Let's start with the simplest multicellular setup. Sponges have what we call cellular level of organization. Their cells just hang out together in loose clusters with some basic division of labor. Next up, Coelenterates show tissue-level organization. Here, cells that do the same job are arranged into actual tissues. That's a step up in complexity. Getting more complex, organ level appears in flatworms and higher phyla. Tissues team up to form specialized organs. But the most advanced groups, Annelids, Arthropods, Molluscs, Echinoderms, and Chordates, have organ system level. This is where organs work together as complete functional systems. One system for digestion, another for circulation, and so on. That's peak organization right there. Digestive systems come in 2 flavors. Incomplete systems have just one opening that works as both mouth and exit. You see this in flatworms. Complete systems have 2 separate openings. Food goes in the mouth. Waste leaves through the anus. Much more efficient design that shows up in higher animals. Circulatory systems also split into 2 types. Open systems pump blood out to directly bathe the cells. Think of it like flooding the tissue spaces. Closed systems keep blood moving through a network of vessels with different sizes, arteries, veins, and tiny capillaries. The closed type is more efficient for larger, active animals. Body symmetry is crucial for classification. Sponges are mostly asymmetrical. Cut them any way you want, you won't get matching halves. Radial symmetry is like a pie. Any cut through the center gives you 2 identical pieces. This shows up in Coelenterates, Ctenophores, and Echinoderms. It's perfect for animals that float or stay in one spot. Bilateral symmetry is what you see in annelids, arthropods, and most animals that move around. There's only one way to cut them into matching left and right halves. This body plan makes sense for animals that need to move in a specific direction. You want a front and back, a left and right side. During development, some animals form just 2 embryonic layers. We call these Diploblastic. They've got an outer ectoderm and an inner endoderm, with an undifferentiated jelly-like mesoglea sandwich between them. Coelenterates, like jellyfish, work this way. Triploblastic animals add a 3rd layer called mesoderm right between the ectoderm and endoderm. This shows up from flatworms all the way to chordates. That extra layer is a game changer because it allows for much more complex organ development. The coelom is huge for classification. It's a body cavity between the body wall and the gut. And the key thing is that it's lined with mesoderm tissue. Whether an animal has a coelom, what kind of coelom, or no coelom at all tells us a lot about where it fits in the animal kingdom. Animals split into 3 groups based on their coelom. Coelomates have a true coelom lined with mesoderm. This includes annelids, molluscs, arthropods, echinoderms, and chordates. Pseudocoelomates like roundworms have a body cavity, but it's not properly lined by mesoderm. And acoelomates like flatworms have no body cavity at all. They're solid throughout. Some animals show metameric segmentation, a fancy way of saying their bodies are divided into repeated segments both outside and inside. You get serial copies of at least some organs. Earthworms are the perfect example. Count those rings on an earthworm. That's metamerism in action. The notochord is what separates chordates from everyone else. It's a rod-like support structure that forms on the backside during embryo development, made from mesoderm tissue. If you've got a notochord at some point in your life, you're chordate. Everything from sponges to echinoderms lacks this structure, so they're non-chordates. Let's dive into the phyla, starting with the simplest. Porifera means poor bearers. We call them sponges. These are generally marine animals with mostly asymmetrical bodies. They're primitive multicellular organisms stuck at the cellular level of organization. As simple as multicellular gets. Sponges have this brilliant canal system. Water flows in through thousands of tiny pores called ostia, collects in a central chamber called the spongocoel, then shoots out through a big opening at the top, the osculum. This current brings in food, exchanges gases, and flushes out waste. The whole system is lined with special collar cells called choanocytes that do the actual filtering. Sponges digest their food inside individual cells. That's intracellular digestion. Their skeleton is made of either sharp spicules or soft spongin fibers, depending on species. They're hermaphrodites, meaning each individual produces both eggs and sperm. Talk about efficient. Reproduction happens two ways. Asexually, they just break apart through fragmentation. Sexually, they make gametes with internal fertilization and go through indirect development. The larva looks nothing like the adult sponge. Common examples include Cycon, Spongilla, which lives in fresh water, and Euspongia, the bath sponge you might have heard of. Moving up in complexity, we hit Coelenterates, also called Cnidarians. They're aquatic, mostly marine, and show radial symmetry. Some stay put, others swim freely. Their defining feature? Cnidoblasts, specialized stinging cells packed with nematocysts. These weapons help them anchor, defend themselves, and catch prey. Don't mess with a jellyfish. Cnidarians show tissue-level organization, a step up from sponges. They're diploblastic with just 2 germ layers. They've got this central digestive chamber called the gastrovascular cavity with just one opening that works as a mouth. Digestion happens both outside cells in the cavity and inside cells, more sophisticated than sponges. Here's something cool. Cnidarians come in 2 body types. The polyp form is the home body, sessile and tube-shaped like hydra stuck to a rock, or a damsia, the sea anemone. The medusa form is the traveler, umbrella-shaped and free-swimming, like Aurelia, your typical jellyfish. Some cnidarians, like Obelia, alternate between both forms in what we call metagenesis. Polyps produce medusae without sex, just budding them off. Then medusae reproduce sexually to make new polyps. It's like having 2 completely different life stages. Other famous cnidarians include Phacelia, the Portuguese man-of-war, sea pens, sea fans, and brain coral. Ctenophores are called sea walnuts or comb jellies. They're exclusively marine with radial symmetry and tissue-level organization like cnidarians. But their signature feature is 8 rows of ciliated comb plates running along their body. These tiny beating hairs propel them through the water. It's beautiful to watch. Ctenophores digest food both ways, extracellular and intracellular. They're famous for bioluminescence. They literally glow in the dark, creating those amazing light shows in the ocean. They're hermaphrodites that only reproduce sexually with external fertilization and indirect development. Pleurobrachia and Ctenoplana are your typical examples. Flatworms are exactly what they sound like, dorsoventrally flattened like someone stepped on them. Most are endoparasites living inside animals, including us, unfortunately. They're the first group we've seen with bilateral symmetry. 3 germ layers, but no body cavity. They're acoelomate. They've reached organ-level organization, though. Parasitic flatworms have evolved some nasty tools, hooks and suckers to latch onto their hosts. They absorb nutrients right through their skin. Flame cells handle osmoregulation and getting rid of waste. They're hermaphrodites with internal fertilization and go through multiple larval stages. Some, like Planaria, have incredible regeneration. Cut one in pieces, and each piece grows into a new worm. The most infamous examples are Taenia, the tapeworm, and Facela, the liver fluke. Aschelminthes are roundworms because when you slice them, they're circular in cross-section. They can be free-living in water or soil, or parasitic in plants and animals. They've leveled up to organ system organization. They're bilaterally symmetrical, triploblastic, and pseudocoelomate. They have a body cavity but it's not properly lined with mesoderm. They've got a complete digestive system with both mouth and anus, plus a muscular pharynx for sucking in food. An excretory tube dumps waste through a pore. Unlike flatworms, roundworms are dioecious. Males and females are separate, and females are usually longer. Internal fertilization, with either direct or indirect development. Important examples include Ascaris, Wuchereria that causes elephantiasis, and Ancylostoma, the hookworm. Annelids are found in water and on land, mostly free-living, but some are parasites. They've got organ system level organization with bilateral symmetry. They're triploblastic, true coelomates. But here's what makes them special: metameric segmentation. Their bodies are divided into repeated segments called metameres. The name Annelida comes from Latin annulus, meaning little ring. Count the rings on an earthworm. That's metamerism. Annelids have both longitudinal and circular muscles for that characteristic crawling motion. Aquatic forms like Nereus have paddle-like parapodia for swimming. They got a closed circulatory system where blood stays in vessels. Nephridia in each segment handle waste removal and water balance. Their nervous system has paired ganglia connected to a double nerve cord running along the belly. Classic examples: Nereus, Pheredima, the earthworm, and Hirudinaria, the blood-sucking leech. Here's where we hit the jackpot of diversity. Arthropods are the largest phylum in the animal kingdom. Get this: over 2/3 of every species we've named on Earth belongs to this group. We're talking insects and their relatives. That's an absolutely massive success story. Whatever these animals are doing, they're doing it right. Arthropods have organ system level organization, bilateral symmetry, 3 germ layers, segmented bodies, and a true coelom. They've got all the advanced features you'd expect from a successful group. What defines arthropods? First, that chitinous exoskeleton, a hard protective shell made of chitin. Second, jointed appendages. The name literally means jointed feet. These jointed legs, antennae, and mouth parts give them incredible flexibility and precision. Their body is organized into 3 regions: head, thorax, and abdomen. They've got diverse respiratory systems depending on habitat: gills for aquatic forms, book lungs for spiders, or tracheal systems for insects. They use an open circulatory system where blood bathes the tissues directly. Sensory equipment is impressive: antennae, compound eyes, simple eyes, and balancing organs. Malpighian tubules handle excretion. Most have separate sexes with internal fertilization and lay eggs. Let's talk about why we should care about arthropods. Some are economically crucial. Apis the honeybee gives us honey and pollinates crops. Bombyx the silkworm produces silk. Laxifer gives us lac for shellac. Then we've got disease vectors like Anopheles, Culex, and Aedes mosquitoes spreading malaria, filariasis, and dengue. Locusta the locust swarms and destroys crops. And there's Limulus the king crab, a living fossil that's been around basically unchanged for millions of years. Arthropods impact our lives in countless ways. Molluscs claim the number 2 spot for diversity. They live on land, in fresh water, and in oceans. They've got organ system organization, bilateral symmetry, 3 germ layers, and a true coelom. Most are covered by that characteristic hard calcareous shell you see on snails and clams. The molluscan body plan is unique. They're unsegmented with a distinct head, a muscular foot for locomotion, and a visceral hump containing organs. A soft mantle wraps over that hump. Between the mantle and body is a cavity with feather-like gills for breathing and excretion. The mouth has this amazing radula, a file-like tongue for scraping up food. Examples include Pila the apple snail, Pinctada that makes pearls, Sepia the cuttlefish, and octopus. Incredibly diverse group. Echinoderms are the spiny-skinned animals. They've got an internal skeleton made of calcareous plates called ossicles. Every single one is marine. No freshwater or terrestrial echinoderms exist. Here's something weird. Adults are radially symmetrical like a wheel, but their larvae are bilaterally symmetrical. They switch symmetry during development. They're triploblastic coelomates with organ system level organization. Their signature feature? The water vascular system, a hydraulic network unique to echinoderms. It's absolutely brilliant. They use water pressure for movement, grabbing and moving food, and gas exchange. Complete digestive system with mouth on the bottom and anus on top. Surprisingly, they have no specialized excretory system. Separate sexes, usually external fertilization, and indirect development with free-swimming larvae. Classic examples: Asterias the starfish, sea urchins, brittle stars, and sea cucumbers. Hemichordates are interesting because they used to be grouped with chordates, but are now considered a separate phylum under non-chordates. They have this rudimentary structure called a stomachoid in the collar region that's similar to a notochord, but not quite the real deal. They're a small group of worm-like marine animals. They've got organ system organization with bilateral symmetry, 3 germ layers, and a coelom. The body is divided into 3 regions: an anterior proboscis for burrowing, a collar, and a long trunk. Open circulatory system, gills for breathing, and a proboscis gland handles excretion. Balanoglossus is the classic example you'll see in textbooks. Now we're at the big one, our phylum. Chordates are defined by 3 fundamental features that show up at some point in our lives. 1. A notochord, that supportive rod running down the back. 2. A dorsal hollow nerve cord. Hollow is key, and it's on the backside. 3. Paired gill slits in the pharynx region. You had these when you were an embryo, even if you don't have them now. Beyond those 3 signature features, chordates are bilaterally symmetrical, triploblastic coelomates with organ system organization. We've all got a postanal tail, either throughout life or during development. And we use a closed circulatory system where blood stays in vessels. Let's clarify the big split. Chordates have a notochord, non-chordates don't. Chordate central nervous system is on the back, hollow inside, and single. Non-chordate nervous system is on the belly, solid, and double. Chordates have pharyngeal gill slits, non-chordates lack them. The heart location flips too. Chordate hearts sit on the ventral side. Non-chordate hearts, if they have them, are dorsal. And that postanal tail is present in chordates, but absent in non-chordates. These 5 differences consistently separate the 2 groups. Phylum Chordata splits into 3 subphyla: Urochordata, also called Tunicata, Cephalochordata, and Vertebrata. The first 2 are lumped together as protochordates, simpler chordates that don't develop a vertebral column. Protochordates are all marine. In urochordates, the notochord only shows up in the larval tail. Adults lose it. In cephalochordates, the notochord runs from head to tail and stays throughout their entire life. Ascidia is your classic sea squirt example of urochordata. Branchiostoma, also called amphioxus or the lancelet, represents cephalochordata. Vertebrates are the advanced chordates where the notochord gets replaced. It's there when you're an embryo, but in adults it's replaced by a cartilaginous or bony vertebral column, your backbone. Here's a statement worth remembering. All vertebrates are chordates because we have those 3 defining features at some point. But not all chordates are vertebrates because protochordates never develop a vertebral column. Vertebrates add some extra features: a ventral muscular heart with 2, 3, or 4 chambers depending on the class, kidneys for getting rid of waste and balancing water and salts, and paired appendages, either fins if you're aquatic or limbs if you're terrestrial. Let's start with the most primitive living vertebrates, cyclostomes. Every single one is an ectoparasite on fish, latching onto the outside and feeding on blood. They've got elongated bodies with 6 to 15 pairs of gill slits. The mouth is circular and jawless, perfect for creating suction to attach to their host. They lack scales and paired fins. Their skull and spine are made of cartilage, not bone. They have closed circulation. Here's their life cycle. They're marine, but migrate to fresh water to spawn. After spawning, they die within a few days. The larvae eventually metamorphose and swim back to the ocean. Petromyzon the lamprey and Myxine the hagfish are your examples. Primitive, but fascinating creatures. Chondrichthyes are the cartilaginous fishes, sharks, rays, and their relatives. They're marine, with streamlined bodies built for hunting. Their entire skeleton is cartilage, never bone. Mouth sits on the underside, and unlike bony fish, their notochord persists throughout life. Their gill slits are separate and exposed, no operculum covering them. Their skin is covered with tiny, tooth-like placoid scales. In fact, their actual teeth are just modified placoid scales pointing backward. Combined with those powerful jaws, they're formidable predators. Here's the catch: no air bladder. That means they have to keep swimming or they'll sink. That's why you never see a shark just floating around. Their heart is simple, just two chambers, one auricle and one ventricle. They're cold-blooded or poikilothermous, meaning their body temperature matches their environment. Some have evolved incredible weapons. Electric organs and torpedo the electric ray can stun prey, and stingrays like Trigon have that venomous spine on their tail. Males and females are separate. Males have these modified pelvic fins called claspers used for internal fertilization. Many are viviparous, meaning they give live birth instead of laying eggs. Examples include Scoliodon the dogfish, Pristis the sawfish with that crazy saw-blade nose, Carcharodon the great white shark, and Trigon the stingray. Osteichthyes are the bony fishes, the most diverse fish group. They live in oceans and freshwater. Unlike cartilaginous fish, their skeleton is made of bone. Bodies are streamlined with the mouth, usually at the front. 4 pairs of gills are protected by an operculum, that bony flap covering them on each side. Their scales are either cycloid, smooth and round, or ctenoid with a comb-like edge. The air bladder is a game changer. It's a gas-filled sac that controls buoyancy, so they can hang out at any depth without constantly swimming. 2-chamber heart, cold-blooded. Most have separate sexes with external fertilization and lay eggs. Examples span from marine species like flying fish and seahorses, to freshwater fish like rohu, catla, and mager, to aquarium favorites like fighting fish and angelfish. The name says it all. Amphi means dual, bios means life. Amphibians can live in water and on land. They straddle both worlds. Most have 2 pairs of limbs for moving around. Body divides into head and trunk, with some species keeping their tail. Their skin is always moist and lacks scales. That moist skin is actually used for breathing. They've got eyelids on their eyes and a tympanum representing the ear. All their waste and reproductive tracts dump into a common chamber called the cloaca. They can breathe 3 ways: gills when young, lungs as adults, and through that moist skin. Heart has 3 chambers, 2 auricles, and 1 ventricle. External fertilization. They lay eggs and go through indirect development with a tadpole stage. Classic examples: Bufo the toad, Rana the frog, Salamander the salamander, and Ichthyophis the weird limbless amphibian. Reptilia comes from Latin words meaning to creep or crawl. That's how most of them move. They're mostly terrestrial. Big difference from amphibians. Their skin is dry and cornified, covered with hard scales or scuts. No external ear openings, just a tympanum. Most have 2 pairs of limbs. Those snakes lost theirs. Heart is usually 3-chambered, but crocodiles evolved a 4-chambered heart. They're cold-blooded. They bask in the sun to warm up. Snakes and lizards periodically shed their scales in what we call skin cast. Internal fertilization. They lay eggs with leathery shells, and development is direct. Babies look like mini adults. Examples range from turtles and tortoises to chameleons, crocodiles, wall lizards, and venomous snakes like cobras and krites. Birds or aves are defined by feathers. No other animal has them. Most can fly, though some like ostriches gave it up. They've got beaks instead of teeth, and their forelimbs are completely modified into wings. The wing structure is a masterpiece of evolution. Hind limbs still have scales and are modified for different uses: walking, swimming, or gripping branches. Their skin is dry with no glands except 1 oil gland at the tail base for waterproofing feathers. Here's brilliant engineering. Their bones are hollow with air cavities. We call them emetic bones. This makes the skeleton incredibly lightweight for flight. Since birds lack teeth, their digestive system has extra chambers. The crop stores and softens food, the gizzard grinds it up. Heart is completely four-chambered with total separation of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. They're warm-blooded or homoiothermous. They maintain a constant body temperature no matter what. Air sacs connected to the lungs create a one-way flow of air, making breathing super efficient during flight. Males and females are separate. Fertilization is internal, and they lay hard-shelled eggs with direct development. Examples span the diversity: Corvus the crow, Columba the pigeon, Psittacula the parrot, Struthio the ostrich, Pavo the peacock, Aptenidites the penguin, and Neophron the vulture. Birds conquered the sky and spread to every habitat on Earth. We've arrived at mammals, the most advanced vertebrates in our own class. The defining feature? Mammary glands that produce milk to nourish young ones. Mammals conquered every habitat imaginable. Polar ice caps, scorching deserts, mountains, forests, grasslands, even dark caves. Some evolved to fly, others to live in water. Two pairs of limbs adapted for everything from running to swimming to flying. Hair on the skin is unique to mammals. No other animal has true hair. We got external ear flaps called pinnae. Different types of teeth, incisors, canines, molars for different jobs. Four-chambered heart pumping efficiently. Warm-blooded, maintaining constant body temperature. And almost all are viviparous, giving live birth, though there are a few egg-laying exceptions. Here's something wild. Ornithorhynchus, the platypus, is a mammal that lays eggs. It's one of the rare exceptions to viviparity. 4 habitat adaptations. We've got Pteropus the flying fox, our only flying mammal. In water, Delphinus the dolphin and Balanoptera the blue whale, the largest animal ever to exist on Earth. The viviparous mammals show incredible diversity. Macropus the kangaroo is a marsupial carrying babies in a pouch. We've got large herbivores like camels, elephants, and horses. Primates like macaca, the monkey. Domestic animals like dogs and cats. And apex predators like tigers and lions. Mammals rule the land, sea, and air. All right, let's test what you've learned. Water vascular system is characteristic of which group? Is it A, Porifera the sponges? B, Ctenophora the comb jellies? C, Echinodermata? Or D, Chordata? Think about it for a moment. The answer is C, Echinodermata. Remember, the water vascular system is the most distinctive feature of echinoderms. It's that brilliant hydraulic system they use for movement, capturing and moving food, and gas exchange. This system is completely unique to echinoderms. You won't find it anywhere else in the animal kingdom. Sponges have canal systems, but that's for water flow, not a vascular system. Ctenophores and Chordates don't have anything like this. Here's another one. Segmentation in the body is first observed in which group? A, Platyhelminthes, the flatworms. B, Aschelminthes, the roundworms. C, Annelida, the segmented worms. Or D, Arthropoda? What do you think? The correct answer is C, Annelida. Annelids are the first group to show true metameric segmentation or metamerism. Their bodies are divided into repeated segments, both outside and inside, with serial copies of organs. Just count the rings on an earthworm. That's segmentation. While arthropods are also segmented and even more diverse, annelids evolve segmentation first. Flatworms and roundworms have no segmentation at all. Let's wrap up with a quick summary. We covered the levels of organization that progress from cellular in sponges all the way to organ system level in annelids and chordates. Symmetry ranges from asymmetrical sponges to radial forms like jellyfish and starfish to bilateral symmetry in most higher animals. Coelom Classification splits animals into 3 groups: acoelomates with no cavity, pseudocoelomates with a partially lined cavity, and coelomates with a true coelom. Embryonic development is either diploblastic with 2 layers or triploblastic with 3. These fundamental features provide the framework for classifying over 1 million animal species. We covered 9 non-chordate phyla, showing increasing complexity. Porifera with their simple canal systems. Coelenterata with stinging cells and 2 body forms. Ctenophora with their glowing comb plates. Platyhelminthes, the first bilateral, acoelomate animals reaching organ level. Then the more advanced groups. Aschelminthes with complete guts, Annelida with segmentation, Arthropoda dominating with over 2/3 of all species, Mollusca with their shells and radulas, Echinodermata with that unique water vascular system, and Hemichordata bridging to Chordates. Each phylum shows key evolutionary advances. Chordates are defined by 3 features present at some life stage: notochord, dorsal hollow nerve cord, and gill slits. Vertebrates replace the notochord with a vertebral column. The most primitive vertebrates are cyclostomes, jawless parasites. Chondrichthyes are cartilaginous fishes like sharks. Osteichthyes are the diverse bony fishes. Finally, the terrestrial vertebrates. Amphibians living in both worlds with their 3-chamber hearts. Reptiles fully terrestrial with scaly skin. Aves conquering the air with feathers and hollow bones. And mammals, the most advanced with hair, milk glands, and parental care. From over 1 million species, we've organized them all into this beautiful classification system. Understanding this framework helps you make sense of all animal diversity.
Meet Iyal, your AI study companion. Transform PDFs into smart study guides, practice tests, and flashcards for UPSC, NEET, banking, and any competitive exam.
Master your exam preparation with Iyal.